All right, here we are, 9.5, day 2, and today we're going to talk about the discriminant. In the quadratic formula, the way we get two answers is by this plus or minus, right? That it's, one answer is the plus and the other answer is the minus. And so what's inside that square root really matters. If what's inside that square root is positive, then we get two answers because we're going to have the plus and the minus. And so if the discriminant is positive, I'm just going to put it over here. If it's positive, then we get two answers. And our graph looks like this, the first one on the left. Now, if the discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac, the part that's in the square root, if that is 0, then it's going to be negative b plus or minus 0 over 2a. Well, that plus or minus doesn't matter. And so in that case, if it equals 0, then we get one real solution. And then if what's in the square root is negative, we can't take the square root of a negative number. Remember, that's a no solution. And so that's what happens, no solution. We can't take the square root of that. You'll learn about that in Algebra 2, but for now, that means no solution. So what's inside that discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac, or what's inside the square root, I should say, the discriminant, can tell us how many and what types of solution. So if it's positive, we get two real solutions. If it's 0, then we get one real solution. And if it's negative, we get no solutions. And so part of your assignment today is going to be using the discriminant to determine the number and type, I should have put and type, of solutions. So that's it. We're not finding the solutions, just how many and what type. And so remember, this is the b squared minus 4ac, the part that's in the square root. So here, a is 1, b is 8, c is negative 3. So b squared minus 4ac is equal to 64 plus 12, which is 76. Since it's positive, we know we have two real solutions, and that's my answer. That's it. For the next one, first of all, we need to make it equal 0. So that's going to give us 9x squared minus 6x plus 1 equals 0. So a is 9, b is negative 6, c is 1. So when we look at b squared minus 4a, ac, we get 36 minus 36, which is 0. So we get one solution. One real solution. And finally, we have a equals 1, b equals 2, c equals 5. b squared minus 4ac equals 4 minus 20 equals negative 16. Okay, since it's negative, we get no solution. No real solution. So for these last ones, the part 2 of your assignment is going to be solve using any method. So remember, we have 3 methods to choose from. We could just factor, okay, and that is like regular or box method. We could do the square root method, which is when we end up with like x squared equals 9 and we square root both sides. And then finally, we have the quadratic formula. And that's, if you recognize if you only have an x squared term, you could do the square root. I always try to factor it first. If it can't factor, then I do the quadratic formula. So this first one, notice we only have x squared. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides, which gives me 4x squared equals 9. I'm going to divide both sides by 4, where that gives me x squared equals 9/4, and then I'm going to square root both sides. So my final answer is x equals plus or minus 3/2. And that's good to do when you just have x squared. Now this next one, you know, maybe I'll try to factor it. So remember, we multiply those together, -8. Let's see, with -8, oh, I could do 8 times -1 gives me 7, right? 8 times -1 is -8, but then 8 plus -1 is 7. So for this one, I'm going to do the box method. You could do quadratic formula. If that's your thing and you want to do quadratic formula, go right ahead. I'm going to do this. This is -4. This is a good refresher, right, of how to do this method. So common factor first row, 2x. Greatest common factor second row, -1. Greatest common factor first column. Greatest common factor second column. So this turns out to be 2x minus 1, x plus 4 equals 0. Remember, we could set 2x minus 1 equal to 0 to solve that. 2x equals 1. So we get x equals 1/2, and then also -4 for that second parenthesis. Now, for the next one, if we try to factor it, notice when we multiply, we get -10. With -10, that's 10 times 1 or 5 times 2. One of them negative, one of them positive, but there's no combination that's going to give us 5 as the middle term. So that's not going to work. So we're going to go to the quadratic formula. B equals 5. C equals -2. And we'll probably get an answer with a square root since it did not factor. So x equals opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that is -5 plus or minus the square root of 25 plus 40 over 10, which is -5 plus or minus the square root of 65 over 10. Now 65 is 5 times 13, so we can't simplify that square root, and that's our final answer, and you can see why it did not factor. Final bonus question. Did I, no, this is different. Okay, I thought this was the same question I did on the other day. So for this one, we're going to factor out that 2 first. So x squared minus 4x minus 8 equals 0. Now for this one, again, we could try -8 and think 8 times 1, 4 times 2. There is no combination that's going to give us -4 as a middle term. So we're going to use the quadratic formula. A equals 1, B equals -4, C equals -8. X equals opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4. A, C, all over 2A. So that's going to be 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 plus 32 divided by 2 equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 48 divided by 2. Now this is bonus. This is a bonus because even though we divided out that 2, we can still simplify that square root of 48. So that's 4 times 12. 4 times 3. Now, I'm just going to leave my 4s like they are and cross them out. And so this can be simplified to be 4 plus or minus 4 root 3 divided by 2. Now, if I divide everything in the top by 2, final answer. And so that is a super bonus problem because not only did it involve a square root, but after factoring out the 2 to begin with, we could still simplify that square root to simplify our answer.